Hello. Hi, this is Mohua Sengupta. I'm a senior leader from the IT industry, and after various CXO roles in different companies, I'm currently an independent consultant. Blockchain happens to be a topic or an area that I absolutely love. So here I am to talk to you about blockchain. Now, I'll start by asking you guys that why do you think blockchain is important? Why do you think we are having? Now, the answer is blockchain, as many people believe, including myself, it is the next technology revolution, just like the internet. Now, many of you might have already might have been born in the internet era, but people who were not, like myself, our lives completely changed thanks to the internet. Various things, you won't be able to comprehend the kind of changes that we have gone through. And I truly believe that blockchain is going to be the next one. It will completely change our lives. It will completely change how we do things. It will completely change the things that we do, not just how we do things, even things that we do. So that's how path-breaking or revolutionary this change is going to be. And if you ask me, I would say this is going to be bigger than internet. Now, so that's the reason we all need to know what is blockchain, at least the basics. Most of you who are, whether you're from the IT industry or whichever industry you're from, because this is going to be all encompassing. It's going to touch every single industry sooner or later, just like the internet has touched, right? So that's the reason we are doing it here. Now, is it a new technology? Why are we doing this now? When has this come up? Most of you must have heard about this word. Now, when did it come up? You won't believe it has actually come up in 2008. And a gentleman named Satoshi Nakamoto, though nobody knows who he is, his identity is completely unknown. Nobody has come up and said that, hey, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto and I have brought out this technology, this is mine. But his name, we have found it in various parts of the code. So the common belief is it has been written or discovered by, rather invented by Satoshi Nakamoto. And as far back as 2008, when Bitcoin came into being. Now, if I ask you what is blockchain, most people would say it's Bitcoin, right? That's the commonest answer, but they are not the same. They are actually very, very different. What blockchain is the technology, and Bitcoin is just a use case of that. It's just that blockchain, the first time we got introduced to blockchain, we got introduced through Bitcoin. That's the only connect. So just like, say, for example, if we say email is internet, or e-commerce is internet, or anything to do with the internet is equivalent to internet, that's not correct, right? Similarly, blockchain is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just a use case of blockchain, just like the e-commerce is a use case of internet. So that's the first thing out of the way. If you have one takeaway from this course or this 1 hour today, that would be blockchain is not Bitcoin. It's a technology. Bitcoin is the use case. So that's the first thing, we get it out of the way. So what is blockchain? And why is it, the one thing that is very important and that keeps bothering a lot of us is that this is a technology extremely powerful. And this has been in being, this has been out there for us to use since 2008. So why hasn't it come up yet? What is so different about this technology, or what is so difficult about this technology that it has not still become pervasive? We all hear about it. There's a lot of aura around it, but then why not? So one common answer would be that it's a new technology. Now, is it that new? It's 12 years old. So it's really not a new technology. Many other technologies have emerged and have become mainstream, but blockchain hasn't. So let's first go step by step, and I'll try my best to explain what blockchain is in as simple terms as possible. Unfortunately, it's not a face-to-face session, so you'll not be able to ask me a question. But please start, you can send your questions. If you have a doubt, send your questions. I'll try to respond to as many of them to the best of my ability. So here we start. What is blockchain? This is a very theoretical definition of blockchain, which you will see in any article, in the internet, in books around blockchain. There are a zillion today. Blockchain is a system in which records of transactions are stored cryptographically across several computers that are limited in a peer-to-peer network. Very complicated, sounds very complicated. If I just hear this, I'll just close my book and go do something else. Let's just pick a few words from here and let me first explain those. And then I will not even expect you to understand this definition. As we go through the presentation, you will see that at the end of it, when you come back here, you will understand what this definition says. So a few things that are important, or rather sort of not commonly heard. First thing is, blockchain is a system in which records of transactions are stored, we all know, cryptographically. Now, what is cryptography? Again, in simple terms, crypto means hidden, we all know, and graphy means writing. So it's basically a technology which writes or communicates in a hidden way, that is, in a masked way, so that only if I'm supposed to know this much, it will be visible only to me, not to someone else. So that is what cryptography means. Across several computers that are linked in a peer-to-peer network. What is a peer-to-peer network? Where each node, or each computer which is equivalent to a node, each computer that is connected by this chain, these are all peers. None of them are superior in any which way to the other ones. So that is what peer-to-peer we know, but in the case of computers, if it is a network where all the computers are at an equivalent level. So if I take an example, say if I have my account, you all individuals will have your accounts in your computers, and we are all connected to the bank system. The bank's computer and us are not in the same level. Today, as we have it, my laptop or my system together, computer, and all you individuals' computers are all peer-to-peer. But I don't get to see what you have, you don't get to see what I have. So we are not networked. The only connection we have is with the bank's computer, which is level above us, because they are storing everybody's data and we are just getting to see what we need to see. So this is as much as you need to know from this definition. Once we go through it, and when we come back, you will completely understand what this means. So what is a distributed ledger? It is a distributed blockchain. You'll hear that blockchain is a distributed ledger technology. First of all, it's not the only distributed ledger technology. There are plenty others. This is probably the most popular one. And unfortunately for blockchain, what had happened is, because it came up with Bitcoin, Bitcoin was the first use case where we all got introduced to blockchain. And because Bitcoin has gone into some trouble, blockchain somehow has got a negative publicity. Though everybody now knows how powerful the technology is, but that's one of the reasons why many people have a skepticism about blockchain. Now, what is a distributed ledger? In order to understand what is a distributed ledger, let's first start with a centralized ledger. We all know what a centralized ledger is. There are multiple ledgers, but one organization has the golden records. So in our case, if we start with the bank's example, as I just talked to you, the bank is holding the golden records. All other individual parties need to reconcile their books with the books of that organization. So if I have my own accounts, I will reconcile it with what the bank has. Even if I add, delete, whatever, it doesn't mean anything as long as my bank has not recorded it, right? So The golden book of records is the bank's record. So that is a centralized ledger. This is what we have today. As opposed to that, what is a distributed ledger? There is one ledger and all the nodes will have the same ledger stored in them. As I said, if the bank's ledger, my ledger, your ledger, everybody's ledgers are the exact same, I get to see what I need to see. But the point is, everybody has access to the same ledger, then only it is a distributed ledger. No one will need to reconcile their data. So once, if my ledger is exactly the same copy of what the bank is holding, I will no longer need to reconcile my data with the bank's data because I know it's the same, right? No one will need to reconcile their data with any other book of records because the same ledger is being stored in each node. So each of us is a node. We'll again go into all the detail and we'll through an example. And each of us who are in different nodes, we all have the exact same data in hand. Okay, before we go into advantages, let's now start with an example to understand what basically a blockchain is and why it is important. Let's go and take an example of, say, a payment, which is a very common, not a payment, a transfer, which is a common money transfer, which is a common thing which we all have done. Every one of us have some point in time transferred some money to a loved one or for some business purpose to a different person. Assume I'm transferring $100 to my brother's account in US. What is happening today? I will go advise my bank. My bank will then go through multiple via mediators, basically, as you call it. There can be central banks of my country. There would be a central bank of my brother's country, his bank, and in between there are various intermediaries, clearing houses, inter-country clearing, all of that, SWIFT or any other protocol. So various organizations get involved. And as what happens, it takes almost about 6-7 days till the amount hits my brother's account. Can be even more. It used to be much more a few years back, or decades back. But then it still takes at least 6-7 days. And the other challenge is my brother won't get the whole amount. He will get a part of it. Now, why does he get a part of it? If I'm sending $100, he might be getting $90 actually, not even $97, $92. So why is that? And why is this delay? The delay is because, see, I give the instruction to my bank. My bank sends it to another institution. That institution sends it to, say, the central bank. That sends it to the clearinghouse. That sends it to the US central bank. That sends it to his account. So multiple, and there could be many more depending on which bank you're dealing with. All of these are having to maintain their own ledgers, and they're reconciling with their previous party and the next party. All of this takes time. So as a result, and this used to take, now that we have a computerized systems in the banks, it's much faster. That's why it's 6-7 days. Before, it used to be a month. So all that processes take time, and then the amount reaches my brother, which is also less. And why is it less? All this reconciling. Different organizations are having to maintain this, right? And that costs. Now, who's paying for this cost? You and me, who are actually transferring money. From each transaction, a part of it goes for this maintenance because they're doing this service to us. So what kind of a service is it? It's slow, it's delaying the payment, and it's giving me less money. So how inefficient is that? We're paying for it and it's slow. That is the crux of the problem that blockchain is solving. If we take that as a sample use case. In the blockchain world, what will happen? In the blockchain world, everybody, me, my brother, my bank, my brother's bank, the central banks, every other financial institution, if we are all a single node in a particular blockchain, the minute I give this instruction, somebody in the process solve some algorithm in between. We call them miners. I will explain who a miner is, but for the time being, let's assume they're miners. They will solve an algorithm, and then Immediately, the minute they solve the algorithm, they're basically ratifying the transaction. It gets updated in every single ledger, every single node. So almost instantaneously, the money will get transferred. And almost the whole amount, maybe a few cents, will still be deducted because these miners also need to get paid. But that's just one set of people quickly doing something which is not going to take away a lot of transaction fees. So that is the power of blockchain. In blockchain, and with blockchain, this transfer will happen almost instantaneously and at almost no cost. So that's how powerful this technology is. Is it more or less clear? Now, what is happening? Why do we call it a blockchain? Because each one of us who are the nodes, we are all a part of a chain. One transaction, like for example, this transfer that I have asked to be made to my brother's account, this transaction, once ratified, becomes a block, which cannot be changed, overwritten, or done anything. As a block, it will get attached to my node. So these are all separate. Each transaction is a separate block, which is getting attached to each node who are part of this chain. That's precisely what blockchain is. And none of these transactions, which end up becoming a block, once they become a block, nobody can touch them. That's how sacrosanct, or that's how secure it is. Okay. So this security is an immense positive feature of blockchain. This is one of the biggest positive features. Now, why? Assume today I have, say, $100 sitting in my account in my bank. If somebody wants to hack it, all they have to do is hack the bank system, and they move $100. God save me after that, because I will have to then take the trouble of proving it. If it were the same, because why? Because in my ledger, nothing has happened. The hacker has only hacked the bank's ledger. And I'm sitting with my account looking fine in my books. But who cares about my books? Because it's not a peer-to-peer relation. The bank's ledger is the one which is considered the primary book of record. So because it shows 0 in the bank's ledger, I will have to prove that why is it so. So it's going to be a big mess for both me as well as the bank, and maybe a few others also. Now, so security is excellent. Now, what is happening in the blockchain world? Everybody, say there are 1 million nodes in a particular chain. If someone has to hack it, they have to hack all the 1 million nodes. Otherwise, even if they hack 1, 10, 15, 20, 100, thousands also simultaneously, nothing will happen, because they will get caught from the other nodes reporting something else. It will be very easy to prove it. And that's why blockchain is so secure. Efficiency, I'll come to it a little later, or maybe I'll cover it. The only reason it is in red is because blockchain today can process 7 transactions a second, about 7 transactions a second, which is not great. But that's why efficiency is not really great. But having said that, there are so many other advantages of blockchain that we can possibly live with it, or it's not the end of the world, because people are researching constantly to improve this efficiency. There are other distributed ledger technologies which have come up, which are far more efficient than blockchain. Maybe not. I cannot comment about the other features that blockchain offers. But efficiency is probably the only thing that we can question. But it can be, people are trying to resolve that too. I'll come to interoperability last, because that's probably the most complex one. Auditability. Now, as I said, each transaction becomes a block and nobody can touch it. So once there is an audit need, all you need to do is just to go back to the block of that particular transaction, and you will see what had happened. No, today, if I need to change something, correct something in the system with people's password, senior leaders' password, etc., you have to change it there. In blockchain, you cannot change anything. Once done, it's done. You have to correct it, you process another transaction, which will again become another block, and sit right next to it. That's why it's auditable and traceable. Its auditability and traceability is absolutely perfect. Collaboration. Of course, it's collaboration because everybody is considered equal. We can collaborate much easy and much faster. Many examples, as we go through the presentation, I'll talk about many examples, but collaboration is key because everybody is considered equal, and a bank, me, you, anyone else in this node, we are all equal. And also, because we are treated equal and because we are part of the same chain, collaboration becomes easy and fast. So instead of transferring the amount to my brother only, if I want to transfer, say, $100 to 50 students, or 50 people who needs this, if they're all on the blockchain, it can all be done instantaneously. That's why it's collaboration. Immutable. It is once the block goes and gets connected to the chain, you cannot do anything about it. That is kind of connected to security as well as auditability and various other features. It's done and dusted. It's immutable. Traceability is related to auditability. And then finally, transparency. It is transparent because everything is clearly open to all. I get to see what you get to see, what the bank gets to see. Everybody sees everything, gets to see everything if it is needed, if you need it. If I don't need to see your transactions, it will be masked for me. I won't be able to see it. But whatever detail I need to see, I will see the exact same thing as the bank will see, or my brother will see, or his bank will see. So that's how transparent it is. Nobody is today, if I have to go check the bank's records for me, I will have to go ask them, right? Or I will have to see my online transaction. It might not be, if it is not updated properly. It's basically, I need to go follow up with the bank to check and see what they have. The banks are transparent enough, but still, not having to go to anybody and having the luxury of seeing it right from my system, my home, that's the level of transparency blockchain offers. Now, what is interoperability? Interoperability is, let's see this example that I've given, the transfer of money example. This is too simplistic to explain interoperability. For interoperability, let's take another example, which is also from our day-to-day life. Say a car purchase. Tomorrow, I want to buy a car. What is the process today? I walk into a showroom, I choose the car, and then I spend days calling a bank for leasing or loan, calling an insurance company for the car insurance, calling some lawyers for some documents and all of that. By the time I come out or I have the car on road, it's probably 7 days later. On road as well as with the documents, it's probably 7 days later. What does interoperability do? What is interoperability? Assume a blockchain where I'm a node. This car sales shop is a node. The lawyer is a node. The insurance companies are a node. The banks are a node. And all of them, I mean, there will be multitude of banks or multitude of insurance companies, many lawyers, they're all in the node. So I get to choose from them. They offer their best rate. Everybody gets to see it. They offer their best rate. I get to choose, and I can do all of that instantaneously because we are all connected. Everybody's system is together. Now, assume, you might ask me, well, why would I want to propose a price? Say a bank offering me a lease. Why would they share their rate with another bank? They don't have to. If they don't want to share it with another bank, that can be masked. But I get to see everybody's rate and I get to choose it. And why is it called interoperability? It's not just some individuals. There are banks, there are insurance companies, there are car salespeople, there are lawyers. So various industries are actually working, or interoperability is working between all these industries, all these individuals who are all separate nodes here. That's how interoperability, that's how powerful interoperability is. And without blockchain or without distributed ledger technology, this is impossible. As of today, we don't have it. As of today, everybody is a phone call away or a walk away. So that's the biggest power of blockchain that we can see. So these are the advantages of blockchain. Now let's see what are the challenges or disadvantages. Now, there are disadvantages. Interoperability in reality. If it can be effected, then it is the best thing that blockchain has to offer. But imagine how difficult it is. Today, you need, say, 5 insurance companies have to make a decision together with IRDA, who's their regulator, and which will affect all of them, or maybe the industry as a whole. How difficult is it to get all of them around the table together with their regulator and maybe a few other parties? It's almost extremely impossible, or it takes a lot of effort. I won't call it impossible. There are things that are happening that way, but it's pretty difficult. Now, imagine in blockchain, a chain is successful or it's most effective when you have banks, insurance companies, and various other players. Just in our example that we have taken just now, manufacturing, the sales unit of the car manufacturing companies, the lawyers, bank, insurance companies, everybody should be part of that chain. Now, for all of them to be there, they have to understand how it is benefiting them. They got to all take the step together. Nobody can, if I do it first, I don't gain anything. So that is a big disadvantage of blockchain. Blockchain as a technology is the most effective, or you can extract the power of blockchain only when more people, as many people gets onto the chain, we get the most out of the blockchain. Taking a first mover, being the first mover, taking the first step doesn't give you any advantage. So that is one big disadvantage of why people are so skeptical about getting onto blockchain. Everybody knows how powerful it is, but everybody knows that by being the first one, they won't gain anything, only when others start joining. So people are not joining yet. So that is why regulation and compliance is going to be play a big role here. This is one technology where I strongly believe that the regulators need to take a first step forward. Unlike many others, say, I keep giving this example of SWIFT protocol. SWIFT protocol had come into being when different banks sat together, they discussed, and the business processes started, and then the regulators stepped in. Whereas here, if that happens, it will take, that is why it's taking so long. So we need the regulators to take that first step forward. And it's not just regulators of one industry, it's in case of SWIFT, it is just one set of regulators from one country or multiple regulators, one of each country. So different countries' regulators have to sit together. Here it's regulators of different countries, of different industries have to come together. So that's where we need regulatory requirements to take or regulatory steps, first steps have to come first. So that is the disadvantage here. And good news is almost every country, the regulatory bodies are active in this space. They know that this is going to come and they need to be ready with it. We just need to see some more live activities happening, but it's going to happen because everybody is working on it. And there are some countries who have taken a precedence, like say UAE, you will see a lot of push from the government. In Canada and in few other countries, we do see a push from the government or the regulators, but we need to see more. Integration with legacy systems. See, most industries are legacy heavy. Most of you would understand what a legacy system is. It's say whatever we have lived and breathed for so long. So this legacy systems and integration with legacy systems has to happen. It's not an extremely difficult thing, but it has to happen. Whenever you implement blockchain, you will need to take this into account, that regulatory requirements, the legacy systems have to get connected to it. So that is a blockchain implementation. It's not just a blockchain implementation. You implement it and you have to connect it with your legacy to get the best out of it. So it's a bigger implementation process. That's what I mean. Public perception, as I said, it came with Bitcoin. Bitcoin got into trouble. So there is a public perception which got impacted. But I have to say that it's gradually dying down. Skepticism is still there, but people also realize the power of this technology. Cost of implementing. It's a hard thing to comment on at this stage because nobody knows enough, but given the expanse, given the coverage that it needs to have, presumably the cost would be high, but the benefits will also be high. Monetization, ROI, investment. Now, these two are related. One is cost. Nobody really knows how much a particular implementation, which is more all-encompassing. Today, whoever has most companies are implementing some POCs. Companies who are trying to do something in the real life also are doing in a very small corner of it. So they're not trying to make it encompassing. So the minute they have to cover a lot more base, the cost of implementation will increase. Now, any of you who have had to take the trouble of getting a big project approved by the board, we know that one of the biggest thing is to show them the ROI. It is not easy to show or calculate the ROI from it because one, it's a new technology. Two, it's really vast. Three, as I said, just if you think about internet, it will evolve. So how much the exact ROI is going to be, it's very hard to quantify. So if you take the example of, say, AI, a bot in a call center, you add a bot to a call center, you know exactly what it's adding. And it's going to give what kind of ROI it's going to give you. Very quantifiable, right? Whereas in case of blockchain, it's not a very quantifiable thing. So that's a big problem to get these kind of projects approved by the board. Because the board needs to see they're answerable to the shareholders. They need to see that what benefit they're giving to the shareholders, right? And speed of transaction processing, we have already talked about it. So speed of transaction processing is definitely a challenge that blockchain has. Now so these are the challenges. So in spite of so many positives, these are the challenges that we keep seeing that this is holding it back. Some of these are stronger than the others. I would say the first two are the biggest challenge or the biggest roadblocks that are there. Once these are overcome, I think the rest will kind of follow. So I will get into some examples. After this, I will talk about, we have already talked about some examples while we were discussing what a blockchain is. I will go through some more examples, which commonly we see in insurance, which commonly we see in banks, or say even we can talk about manufacturing. So some of these common examples, I will just quickly walk you through because I know we will run out of time otherwise. And then I'll go back to the first slide once, and I know that at that point you will know exactly what was meant by that first definition of blockchain. Now, let's take the patient data management and sharing. What is happening? Say this is a situation where I'm a patient. I go to, say, Sakra Hospital for certain approvals. I go to I go to Sakra Hospital for certain treatments. I go to Apollo for some tests. I go to my house physician who sits in some other clinic. Everybody has a piece of my medical records. If, God forbid, if I have an accident or if I have a serious disorder, health condition, all these data need to come together, and that becomes a challenge. In US or in many of the Western countries, there are some processes that are there, but still they're very cumbersome and very complicated. In India, it's no better than us. Say, if I'm sick, my family member having to collect all of these and take it. God save him if he can't find some report in his drawer, then to get it from a previous hospital, all of this becomes a real nightmare when your loved one is unwell. With blockchain, what will happen is all of these, if all the hospitals or most of the hospitals, and we will have the choice that, okay, these are the hospitals, these 20 hospitals or 20 doctors are part of a blockchain, I will go to one of them. Because you have if one or two joins, then it doesn't help. But as long as you have a certain mass, you would have a tendency to go there because you know there is an advantage. They can all exchange their reports and data and facts. And what will happen the minute you start going, more people will come and more hospitals will sign up. So everybody will see the advantage of it. So what happens today, assume there is a, and I will not go line by line. These slides are very written in very simplistic words. If you I go through the explanation, if you happen to see it at a later time also, you will see how you will understand everything. So what is happening today? I do a blood test that becomes a block and gets connected to the chain. Tomorrow I do something else. I go to the physician, I get some tests done, checkup done. That record goes to the chain in his note as well as in everybody's note. And I am, as an authority, because this is my data, I have the authority to give approval that, okay, these 5 people should be able to view my data, or these 5 organizations should be able to. So what happens, assuming I'm sick, everybody, the people I wanted to, and if at that point I think that someone else also needs to see it, some other new hospital that can only treat me at that point, I can then open it up to them as well. So that's how easy it is. It's within a flash of a second, everybody gets to see the same set of data. So it's completely hassle-free. So this is a very simplistic use case of blockchain in the healthcare industry, and I think many companies are, at least in the West, they are starting to think about it. And this is an area where I think in the healthcare industry, this is the first space where we will see. There are various other use cases. I can go on and on. We can have a session on healthcare. We can have a session on banking. But let's move on from here. You can see why it is a block. Where is the chain? What is the interoperability and how it's benefiting, right? Let's move on to the next one. This is my favorite because this is really easy. KYC. Very easy to understand and very easy to implement also. See, today, every bank is having to collect KYC data. Now, if I have one account in HDFC, see, if I have a home loan in HDFC, I've given them all my detail. Tomorrow, I go to open a fixed deposit, I'll have to give all the detail again. I go to walk into an ICICI, I give it again. I walk into a city, I give it again. Everybody is having to collect, and banks are spending millions of dollars in collecting and storing this data. This is a mandatory requirement. If the banks fail in any of this, meeting any of these mandatory requirements, they will have to pay a fine. Very recently, I'm sure most of you have seen, HDFC was levied a fine of 1 crore by RBI because there were some 39 current accounts where they failed to keep track of entire KYC need. So that's how important it is. Every bank is collecting, every bank is spending the money. Why not put them in a blockchain? Put everything in a blockchain. All these banks, and if they are connected in a chain, and people are giving them the data, if HDFC collects it in their current account, not just they populate all of their other areas, but they also send the same data goes to everybody's nodes. So once you give it, it's beneficial for me because I don't have to give the same thing over and over again to 20 banks. And it's so much money saving and advantageous to the banks because they are not having to collect it over and over and over again. So that's KYC data. And to me, this is one of the lowest hanging fruits that's there in the banking industry. And I can't wait to see this implemented very soon. But again, regulatory needs are there. Regulators have to come together because this also involves interoperability, right? Something very interesting in today's situation. Could blockchain have saved? And the reason I picked this is because of the situation that we are in. It's so topical at this point in time. Could blockchain have saved the COVID-19 situation? I don't know whether it could have saved, but it could have definitely benefited in the sense that, see, what was the biggest problem? Once somebody got infected in Wuhan, for the data to move to the different countries, the health departments of different countries, it took more than a month. And by then, People were traveling and there was a lot more infection that has already spread to every other country, multiple other countries, and then they took their time. So this whole lag in reporting is what had really made it out of the proportion. What could have happened? Assume if every country's health departments are connected by a node, are connected by a chain, they're all part of the same blockchain, and they are each a different node. And they are required to have to report a new communicable disease every time it comes up. If it comes up, if it's a new disease, I haven't seen it, I got to report it to the other nodes, to the other countries. Instantaneously, it goes to everybody. And then it's up to the respective governments to decide what they want to do, whether they wanted to stop travel with China at that point in time. Maybe it could have stopped in China only. But so a blockchain could have helped it. And funnily, I had written a paper at least 2 years back talking about this blockchain use case of stopping communicable or reporting and stopping new communicable diseases. And once COVID-19 happened, I realized how if we had implemented that at that point, it's unfortunate that many of these theoretical or research articles, they remain research. I wish if somebody had effected it, today probably it wouldn't have stopped, but it could have been controlled a lot better. So that's the reason, because it's so topical, I picked up this particular use case. It's real-time reporting across nodes. And it's also, see, the other problem, the reason I'm saying blockchain as opposed to, say, picking up a phone or sending it by internet is the security bit, right? Because what is happening is when you are reporting a communicable disease data, it's an extremely private data, right? It's somebody's private detail you're sharing. So it needs to have a certain level of security. Complete security is necessary, which is not possible in today's internet. So blockchain can give that security. So what are the, so in broad terms, when do you think, so you can say, okay, is blockchain effective here, is blockchain effective there? One of the simple rule of thumb that I keep telling people who do these courses with me is that, one, there has to be a transfer involved, a transaction. It could be health record, it could be money, it could be land records, it could be anything which is transferred from between people. Secondly, there has to be a trust element. So lack of trust. So if I'm transferring money to my brother, if I give it to his hand, there is no trust element problem, right? Because I'm sending it through multiple parties where they are all involved. Many of them I don't know. There is a trust element, right? So lack of trust is a key thing. You can still have private blockchain even when there is trust, because there are other advantages. But one of the biggest advantage of blockchain is when you don't know the individual sitting on the other side and you're transacting. It could be something like a Mona Lisa painting. I could be transacting. I mean, I would be, anybody, if I'm having an expensive painting in store, if I had to sell it to somebody unknown, I will probably take all the precaution to make it a secure sale, right? So, and the person who's buying will also want that. So trust, three things: transfer, trust, a transfer or transaction, trust, and multiple parties. So if it is one or two parties involved, it doesn't make sense. So when multiple parties are involved, it makes sense. So these are the three high-level rule of thumbs. If you see it, then you would know that this is a relevant case use case for blockchain. Not everything will make sense, but that's a good starting point to start and analyze whether blockchain needs to be implemented there or can be implemented there. So if many of you who are probably working in companies where you think that there is a plan or there's a potential for blockchain implementation and you're asked to identify areas or use cases, this would be a nice rule of thumb to start with. So that's it. That's all. I'll get into the questions, but first, let me go back to the first slide and you will see, you understand it completely. It's a system in which records of transaction are stored cryptographically, because it's stored only the ones who needs to see it, gets to see it, the hospitals who are, I have approved, or the people who need to see it for me to transfer the amount to my brother, or any such use case, only the nodes who are supposed to see it cryptographically across several computers. There are different computers in the node, in different nodes sitting in each node, that are linked in a peer-to-peer network. So no longer we will have some banks or financial institutions or some regulator who is more superior, whose system will be considered superior. Does this, now one point you need to know, does it completely make the regulatory bodies or this via media groups, say the central bank, the role, does it make it completely irrelevant? Absolutely not. They will still continue to be relevant. In the blockchain world, with this new level of efficiency, they will have to just reinvent themselves. There are many things that they do today which they'll continue to do, and they will need to do 20 new things in this new innovative blockchain world. So it's not that just because the middlemen or the middle group will become irrelevant, they don't need to invest in it, or they don't need to, they should put a stop to this. Everybody will gain from it. We will just have to, like every other new technology, everybody will need to reinvent themselves. So that's about it. With blockchain, I can go on and on, as I said. Oh, the other thing I said that I will explain is miners. So I know I've run out of time. I was supposed to stop at 45, but I'll take a minute to explain miners, because you need to know that for understanding blockchain. Number one, what is a miner? Now today, as we talked about, go back to the first example, or any example for that matter, for all those intermediary organizations, these are all getting maintained, right? And there is a cost for maintaining that. That is why the system is so cumbersome. What happens in the blockchain world? In the blockchain world, there are multiple parties. Everybody is peer-to-peer. Everybody is in, as an individual or as an organization, they're all at a similar level, all at equivalent level. Now, who maintains this blockchain? I don't want to maintain it because I'm just a node. You don't want to maintain it because you're just a node. Similarly, a bank doesn't want to maintain it because they're also just a node. So who maintains it? In simplistic terms, it's not that simple, but in simplistic terms, these miners are the managers of the blockchain. What they actually do is they solve complex algorithms to ratify these transactions, and these transactions get posted in all the ledgers. So that's who the miners are. And for that, doing that job, they get a fees. That is the transaction fee, which will probably get deducted from my transaction where I paid the $100 to my brother. And that transaction, which will be a few cents, will get deducted from that transaction, which is much less than what we are having to spend today for having to maintain so many intermediary organizations. So in one word, miners are the maintainers of this blockchain platform. It's a platform, right? We are all using it. So with that, I'll take a pause. I'll look through the questions that you guys have sent, and I will start answering them. What is the first question? Viswas Nahar. What is the difference between transactions or adding block to blockchain? It's the same thing. In the blockchain world, a transaction gets into a block, becomes a block. Once the transaction is ratified, it becomes a block and gets added to the chain. That's it. That is what a blockchain is. Today it's a transaction. Tomorrow also it will remain a transaction, but each transaction becomes a block in the blockchain world. Okay? I hope that answers your question. If not, you can send a follow-up. Shakib Ahmed, what are the technical skills required to become blockchain software developer? See, there are various technologies that are prevalent today in blockchain. You can come from any field. I mean, just because you are doing, say, if you're from mainframe, you can't do it, or if you're from Java, you have a higher chance of doing it. It's nothing like that. There are multiple technologies, but the two most popular ones, Hyperledger and Ethereum. There are many others coming up. So it's hard to say that what technology skill you need to have. You have to have a passion for technology, and you have to have an understanding, knowledge. And if you are from any technology, basically you can move here. You got to have a passion for it. And in the blockchain world, you also, actually, I would say it's everywhere in today's technology also, understanding the business. is going to be a big requirement, because how the blockchain technology fits in, that is true for every other technology also, but because it's a complex one and because it's a more all-encompassing one, how the business actually gets benefited from blockchain, that is something you really need to understand, or that helps. If you understand that, it would help your journey. I would say start reading up. There are plenty of articles, there are plenty of write-ups everywhere. I think I myself have some 100 plus articles all over, and they're all on the net, because every journal is in the net. So start reading up, get an understanding. There are various blockchain courses happening today. Take some technology course if you want to get into the technology side of it. And also, once you start taking technology, because ultimately you will learn once you start playing with the technology. That's just the way to it. And most companies, I don't know which companies you're working on with, but most companies who are into blockchain or have just started investing into POCs or some little bit of work or center of excellences, try to get into that, because the company, everybody is looking for people who are interested in blockchain. And even if you have a POC experience, people would value that a lot, because there are not too many. So this is an area to focus on. Shakib had another question, which is better, blockchain software development versus cybersecurity? Hard to say. Because they're comparing apples to oranges, I believe he means in terms of picking a career. Yeah. So Shakib, hard to say which one's better, because it's comparing apples to oranges. Now, cybersecurity is valid today, it will be valid tomorrow, it will be valid in any technology, because it is security, which everybody needs in the system, in the IT world. But is it the same, the cybersecurity that when I started my career, say IT career, say 15 years back, or my banking career 25 years back, the cybersecurity we had, it was very different from the cybersecurity that we have today. So cybersecurity as a subject is probably going to be there always, but then it will change, it will evolve. So blockchain as a technology is going to happen, it's going to happen big. And so I would say, and it's not either or, you can do both. Blockchain has not become pervasive, it's not yet mainstream. So you can be a cybersecurity technical person who specializes in cybersecurity, who's also working in blockchain, because blockchain would also need cybersecurity. So they are not mutually exclusive. I don't know whether I've managed to help you, I know, but both are good fields. Vishwas has sent a follow-up question. If hundreds of transactions happen to one day, so miner will get 1250 Bitcoin. Okay, this is where every transaction on block will send 12.5. Okay, so these are all you're talking from the Bitcoin use case. As I said, you got to dissociate the two. Who knows what will happen to Bitcoin? I cannot comment on it. Nobody can comment on it. But so let's dissociate. How much the miner gets, we don't know. It would depend on the miner, how big the chain is. Look at blockchain as a technology. Forget the Bitcoin bit. Tomorrow's miners might get paid in dollars or in rupees. Who knows? It's just that it got implemented in the Bitcoin use case. That's why. So completely dissociate. These are not relevant. The miner will get some fee, which is usually, it should be transaction based, or transaction that he clarifies or clears or ratifies, he will get a fee. Only thing is, and how the fee will get determined will depend on the system. Today, I can be an independent consultant making $300 an hour. I can be an independent consultant making $50 an hour, right? It would depend on which company I'm working for, which technology or which area I'm working in, or who am I? It's my own capability also. So how much the miner will get, nobody can tell. And it's completely dissociated from Bitcoin. Mayur Kripalani, what if the networks are privately encrypted? On this, can the concept of decentralized node transaction work? See, private encryption and decentralized. So if it is a blockchain node, if it is a private, okay, blockchain can be multiple kind. I mean, we did touch upon it a little bit, but I didn't get into the detail. It can be a private blockchain. So if it's a private blockchain, say assume it's within a bank, different groups, different areas of the bank can be a private blockchain. And say, as we were taking, let's take the KYC example. Today, current account group collects the KYC detail of an individual. Every group of the bank is part of the same blockchain. They're all a node, each a node rather. So that data gets moved from, gets loaded in everybody's chain or rather everybody's node as a block. So everybody has access to it, and it's a private blockchain of a particular bank. They can privately encrypt it. If your question is whether an individual who's a node can privately encrypt it, answer would be no, because if you privately encrypt it, you are not part of the node. You're not basically, you're not behaving as a node. You are no longer a peer. See, the basic understanding or the basic construct of blockchain is peer-to-peer. So each node, two nodes have to have the same level of power. That's what a peer-to-peer is, right? So privately encrypting a private blockchain, absolutely okay. Privately encrypting a node, no. And if you are in a public blockchain, then there is a encryption that is in there in the blockchain. You don't do anything yourself as a part of the node. So hope that answers your question, Mayur. Vikrant Bhagat, does blockchain have future scope? Because I have done my BTech in computer science background, and what job I can get after doing this course. See, you're already a BTech. It's hard to say what job you will get, but I can tell you, because based on my experience, that blockchain technology as well as business people who understand blockchain are extremely high demand. So if you do a blockchain course, please go ahead and do it. Many courses are offered online. Even really good universities like Stanford, etc., are offering courses like this online. Besides, you have your Coursera's where you can do multiple types of blockchain course. And this will definitely become an added advantage. But only thing I would say is, not every company is investing in blockchain, IT company, I mean, because you're talking about jobs. But you would get to know, at the minute you get into their websites, you get to know which are the companies who are getting into blockchain or who are investing in blockchain. Approach them first, huh? Because I myself, I'm aware, I have struggled to get any technology person with blockchain experience or exposure. I won't even call it experience, because they are few and far between. Blockchain exposure, who will come and work on a project for us. We were ready to train, but even then, it was not that easy. So I guess all questions have been covered. We are also almost at the end of the hour. Hope you all have gained something out of it. Loved this session. Would love to hear from you. You will see my detail in the detail that GL has posted, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to respond to your questions. Feel free to reach out. Absolutely enjoyed it. Hope you have gained something from this. Thank you. Bye.